Welcome, everyone, to the first ever You're Still Doing That podcast, where everyday people can talk about their childhood passions and tens of people might hear them. With us today is my longtime friend and video pal, the great Keith Davis. Keith is a graduate of the prestigious Sand Hills Community College and Campbell University, and he's been teaching elementary music for over 20 years. Keith is also a rock star within our community, playing guitar in many, many bands over the years. Welcome to the very first episode of You're Still Doing That, Keith. Thanks for being the first guest.
You're welcome.
All right, so how many action figures do you think you have in your collection?
Oh, man, I don't know. That's a good question.
Is it over 1,000?
Yeah, probably.
Over 2,000?
No, I don't think that much.
No, not, but over 1,000. That's
over 1,000. If you consider everything I've had since I was a kid, yeah.
Well, I can definitely tell you. So I was just telling you beforehand, walking in to your building, it's nuts how many are over there. I am always blown away at the sheer size of your collection. So what type of action figures do you seek out? What kind do you collect?
Oh man, the one I get the most of is the vintage G.I. Joe, the 3 3/4 inch figures. They're the ones that I played with as a child, and they're the ones that I still like and keep. I still have a lot of my original ones because my grandmother always put everything up, never threw anything away.
Right.
And so I still have a lot of my originals, and then I've since then, started filling in holes in places that I never got when I was a kid and getting new ones. But there's so many different types and figures now. You got a lot of 6-inch figures, and so G.I. Joe has 6-inch figures they call classified series.
Right.
I get those just because they remind me of my old figures because they're like new editions or with a lot more details.
But just
yeah,
a little bigger, more details.
More details, more weapons, things like that. Of course, Star Wars. I like Star Wars because I grew up with Star Wars. We all did.
Right. Yeah. And everybody had Star Wars stuff.
I don't necessarily go out of my way to complete my collection with Star Wars stuff. I've kind of got what I've had when I was a child, and maybe got a couple pieces of those, but mostly if it's Star Wars, I do the new figures, the new ones.
The newer ones.
What they call the vintage collection, which are 3 3/4.
Gotcha.
But there's also the Black Series, which is the 6-inch, and I have quite a few of those, but I've recently cut back on those because it's just so much, and it's just like, okay, I've got to cut back and not collect everything because there's space is an issue.
Right, about to say.
Yeah, and money too.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Oh man, space and money.
Yeah.
So how many figurines do you think go like in like a series? I'm not sure what you call it when they put them out or for a season.
Well, they do. They do waves. They call it waves. They'll do first wave and then the second wave and third, and most of those they'll do about 4 to 6 figures per wave.
Right.
Now Star Wars seems to always do, I would say, 6. The G.I. Joe will do about 4 figures a wave for the classified. Yeah, so that's pretty typical, pretty normal.
So so I haven't seen a lot of G.I. Joe recently. So are those still getting put out? They're still making those?
They are, just not. None of the box stores around here carry them really.
Right.
Walmart may have 1 or 2, but then they get one little case in, and somebody comes along and buys the whole case when they see them put out, and then you never.
Somebody like you comes along and says, "I'm going to get all
Well,
those."
actually, I don't try to buy them from Walmart. No, I do most of my shopping online now.
Yeah.
Or through friends that I've made in the action figure community.
Right.
So yeah, I'll go to Walmart and look and just see what's new, but 9 times out of 10 you walk out of there disappointed, and so I just
sometimes that's just Walmart, isn't it?
Yeah, that's just Walmart, and so I just don't even. I try not to buy them at Walmart, and if I do see them, I usually, unless it's something I do not have or have not been able to pre-order,
Yeah.
Online, I don't even touch them. I just leave them there for someone else.
Right. So what's the cost of a new action figure?
They $19.99 was the going rate, the average. Of course, after COVID, everything keeps going up.
Man.
But our paychecks. And
right, except our
Teacher-
paychecks. Yes,
teacher
that's our
paycheck.
educational checks. Yes, they don't go up very often.
And so now most figures are going up to about $22.99 or $24.99. They've gone up. Yeah, it kind of stinks. That's one reason why I've cut back too.
Yeah, I remember the other year when Netflix put out He-Man was being done again, and I was super excited to watch He-Man because one of my favorite directors and another podcaster I like to listen to, Kevin Smith, was behind getting He-Man done. And so I was like, oh, I got to get the action figures. And I bet Keith knows where to go to get those and knows about them. And then I was shocked seeing that these action figures, they're not, like you said, they're not the 3-inch ones or whatever. They were pretty big, not the size that I was used to seeing when I was young. And they were like $40 or something like that.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I was like, oh my goodness. I was a little shocked on the sticker price, but that did not keep me from buying 2 of the He-Man action figures. So
those are pretty cool too. So I've got a few of those.
I don't have a lot of action figures myself, but I have about 3 or 4 specifically because they're characters that I really liked in the series.
Yeah.
And I'm one of these guys that I get them and they're staying in the box. I don't take them out. I hold it because I don't know why, but I feel like they got to stay in the box. But I've been in your building, and there's a lot of stuff not in boxes. You got tons of stuff.
Yeah. You don't get to have no fun with them when they're in the box. I mean, I know a lot of people are not openers, but they think they're going to be worth something one day, but they're not because. And this is my
You're just blowing my bubble because that's why I have my Mace Windu in a box. So I was like, that's going to be worth some money someday.
Well, and maybe if we were still kids in the 80s, buying them and keeping them in the box, yes.
Yeah.
But see, then no one thought about that. We all bought it as kids, and why did we buy them? Because we wanted to play with them. Yeah. And so the ones that are in the boxes still are, still fairly rare now because so many people open them.
Yes.
And now I think everybody's thinking, oh, if I keep this in the box for so long, it's going to be worth a lot of money. But there's only so many people keeping them in the box. And when 20 years down the road and we're in our 60s and we decide, oh, we're getting old and we want to start retiring and buy our beach house or whatever, let me sell my figures. Well, there are going to be so many on the market.
Right.
Because everybody's keeping them.
Because everybody's keeping them.
And they're not going to be rare. I mean, I'm not going to say they won't go up in value, but I'm just saying that.
You're not buying a car with them.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be like it used to be. I don't think it's like baseball cards. Baseball cards from the 60s are worth something because you hear stories, people always putting them in their, in the 60s or whatever, 50s or whatever these baseball cards were made. They would put them in the spokes of their tires and ride.
Yeah, that's what I sure did.
Or they bought them for the bubble gum,
And the bubble gum, yes.
And so those are not as many people held on to those cards, so there's not as many of them. But, but we were growing up in high school, baseball cards became big.
Right, and worth money.
And guess what? Those same
all
cards.
Them. I've got a big box of baseball, basketball, football cards. Because I remember saying, I'm going to buy a car, or I'm going to buy a house, or I'm going to put my kids through college with this box of cards that I'm saving. And I still got that box, and I pulled out what I thought was one of my more valuable cards, a Ken Griffey Jr. rookie card, mint condition, still in a plastic sleeve. And guess what? I'm not buying a car with that card. I looked them up on eBay, and there's a slew of them, all in mint condition, and they're certified. And it costs like $20 to get an individual card certified. I'm like, but it's only worth $50.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's so many of them, and there's just nobody. And I think that's what's going to happen with these toys. There's going to be so many of them in the box in 20 years.
Right.
There's nobody's going to.
So you're saying I should take out Mace Windu and just have some fun with them?
Yes. Why else buy them if you can't enjoy them?
I can put Mace Windu on He-Man's cat and then have some fun.
That's my philosophy, and I open them and I like to pose them, and
right,
and just enjoy the figure for what it is. If I'm going to spend the money on it,
right. Sometimes just looking at it is sometimes it just makes me think about back to childhood, and
that's why people I think collect.
That's why I like it. I don't have to take it out of the box. Sometimes just looking at it is enough. But I'll keep that in mind.
And I think some people, I think nowadays too, especially since COVID, we were all at home,
yep.
And we all got in there and we said, you know what, I need to clean my attic out, or I need to clean out the garage, or this closet, and we started pulling them out and said, oh
right,
yeah, I remember this, and all this is, and then that just kind of rekindled everybody with their old toys and their childhood memories. And now all of a sudden the market's blown up for that stuff.
So what do you think is your most prized action figure that you have in there? Which one would you say? So this one is like this one. Let's do 2 rounds. Let's do which one is your favorite. This is my favorite out of everything I own. And, ladies and gentlemen, he owns, I wish I could show you a picture or video, but it's a lot. Which one do you think is your favorite?
Well, obviously, I think the G.I. Joes. The Joes are my favorites. So I'd have to go with a couple Joe figures that are my favorites. Always I got a couple of they're called Vipers in G.I. Joe. Yeah. They were the Cobra, the bad guys.
Yes.
Like
Cobras,
soldiers. Yep. And I always liked them because they would make them in different colors, but they always had the same kind of outfits. And so I have a few Vipers that I really like that I keep together, display all together. And they're probably some of my favorites.
The Vipers. Yeah. Now, I don't know if you guys are going to be able to hear this or not, but we're on Keith's back porch under a nice little fan outside. And there are lots of birds trying to come into this podcast, too. So if you hear any of those, that's we're out on a nice Sunday, a Father's Day Sunday afternoon. All right, so Cobras. Now, what do you think is if you were selling some of your action figures, what do you think would get the most money?
Most money.
Yeah, what do you think is probably the priciest one?
I have remember Snake Eyes?
Yeah.
He was the ninja in the black suit.
Yes, I do.
I have him, and he's straight armed. What Joe collectors call straight armed. One of the very first ones that ever come out. And then later they changed them to what they call swivel arms, so the arm can swivel back and forth.
Right.
With an extra joint. So the straight arm doesn't have that extra joint, and I've got a couple of those.
So there's no elbow on the straight arm.
There's an elbow, but above the elbow, between the elbow and the shoulder, they added a swivel joint.
Oh, gotcha.
But the straight arms don't have that swivel joint.
Right.
Yeah.
They just go up and down, left and right.
And those are, I got a couple of those. Those are probably the most expensive, especially when you have them in good condition complete with the accessories.
Right. What's the price for that, do you think? If you were going to buy one, what do you expect it
You would expect to pay, with a complete, probably $80 to $100.
All right.
Complete. And there are some figures who are even more rare that go for a little bit more. Like I saw a Joe on a bidding site, on an auction bidding site, what they call the Mickey Mouse Cobra Commander, and his little symbol looks like it has Mickey Mouse ears, and that was a misprint. And so those will go for about $300.
Gotcha.
But I didn't. I decided I better wait. I didn't pull that trigger, so yeah.
All right. So what do you remember as your first collectible, the first action figure? Do you have a memory of ever having?
Oh, man, yeah, easily. I know I keep talking about G.I. Joes, but I can remember us going somewhere. We were out of town, And we went in something like do you remember Maxway?
Yes, I do remember Maxway
okay.
stores.
I think we were in a Maxway, and I bought a G.I. Joe figure, and I can remember he was real simple, just a little soldier, army. So and I didn't really know what G.I. Joe was at the time, but it was just a little green soldier, and I thought it was cool because he had a backpack and a gun, and a helmet that was all removable.
Right.
And that was my first memory of buying that, and I still have that figure.
Right. Well, that's good. Most people don't have a lot of their stuff from when they were younger, just because they tore it up or lost it, or.
Well, yeah, but that's, I guess, the benefit of. We complained about after my grandmother passed away that, her generation kept everything because they grew up in the Great Depression, but she kept all my toys, and never threw anything away.
Yeah.
And so I can say I'm pretty lucky to have a ton of my original stuff like that.
Yeah, I remember my grandmother being the same, except it wasn't action figures. It was my father's toys and his brothers and sister. And it was these little, like, Lincoln Logs and these other little things that were really old. I thought they were the coolest things. And then I probably could have sliced my arms up left and right with all the metal pieces left and right in there. If you were going to start collecting today, or if somebody asked you about how do I go about collecting action figures today, what advice would you give to someone who liked action figures and wanted to collect them?
Oh, well, I would ask, I guess, what are you into? Are you wanting Star Wars? Are you wanting Army? Are you like G.I. Joe? Are you wanting sci-fi stuff like He-Man, and just try to say, well, here's the lines that you can look at. So, like, I guess, like, if you were into Joe's, I would say, start with the classified series. Probably cheaper than buying the original Joe's, the vintage. Right. Same thing with Star Wars. I would say, like, if you really just wanted the vintage, you're going to pay a little bit more for them than you would the new stuff that's coming out now, which looks pretty good.
Yes, I would agree too.
Yeah, and there's a couple other lines out there too. I could, like there's a new group called Action Force, made by a company called Valiverse, and so if you're in the soldiers and stuff like that, that's a good one to start with.
Those are all good names. Action Force, Valiverse.
Oh, Valiverse, yeah, they use Action Force. And apparently Hasbro owned Action Force, and it was like a European G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
But then the name, they just let it go, and it was, from what I understand, was not copyrighted anymore. And so the Valiverse guys picked it up.
Valiverse. Yeah. Those are all good names. I like the names of them.
And that's good stuff to collect. I mean, it's fun. They're fun figures. They're very realistic looking for the most part, and lots of cool little weapons. And you can buy accessory packs and and fix them how you want them to look. And they're very posable.
So, Keith, not only do you collect, but you are an avid seller of action figures too.
Yes.
Where do you go to sell action figures? I mean, other than, I'm sure online everybody can find.
Well, yeah, the internet.
But if you were physically are going to go somewhere, where do you sell action figures at?
We recently did a big convention in Augusta, Georgia, called Joe Fest.
Joe Fest.
Which was Joe, But we went down there and set up for the whole weekend, set up a booth in the convention center, and it had a good time selling stuff and, meeting people. But we also go to, a big thing we do is there's a group in Raleigh called the NC Underground Toy Swap.
Underground Toy Swap.
And they're actually coming to Sanford July 15th up at the movie theater.
Oh, nice.
And we do that, and you go, and it's free. You can set up a table, and if you have some old toys you want to get rid of, or if you just want to come and look and see what other people have, we'll be there selling. We try to do conventions, which we want to get into more conventions, and then toy shows. Like Raleigh has a toy show that comes about every 3 months, I believe, up at the fairgrounds.
That sounds fun. I bet that's interesting to go to.
Yeah. So we try to do things like that, just to get out there and sell stuff. I wish, if we had more time, we would do even more, but
Selling GI Joes doesn't pay all the bills.
Doesn't pay all the bills.
No.
But I can say without telling you and telling everybody what we made, but Joe Fest, if we could do Joe Fest every weekend, I would do that.
Right.
And not work another job. But the truth is, it's not going to be always that consistent.
Right. So how big is Joe Fest? Like, how many do you think the attendance was?
Oh, I don't even know attendance-wise. I mean, it's a pretty good-sized convention. I know there's some bigger ones, like GalaxyCon in Raleigh is a really big convention, and I know that they have a lot of big stars, and there's a lot of vendors there, too, with a lot of cool stuff. Not just toys, but everything. Right. And so Joe Fest is probably not that big as GalaxyCon, but it's still a decent-sized show.
You think, is it over or under 5,000 people?
I would say, I don't know. I really don't know. There probably was at least 5,000 people.
Right, that's quite a lot.
Yeah. I mean, it's the Augusta, Georgia Convention Center, which was a good-sized building, and we filled it up.
Nice. Yeah. Well, I saw your pictures from Joe Fest, and your booth was slammed with material there for people to go browse through. Now, at Joe Fest, do you sell just G.I. Joe stuff, or was it all
at first, my understanding was they wanted it to be all Joe stuff, but it's grown so much now that you can get other stuff too. I mean, we actually sold a lot of Star Wars stuff. Right. Yeah, we took a lot of Star Wars down there with us, and we sold quite a bit. I mean, I think we sold more classified G.I. Joe figures than anything, but Star Wars was a very close second. And so there can be other stuff too, yes.
Now, you're saying we went to Augusta. Who's the other person for we?
Michael Waddell and Josh Howells. There's three of us there, kind of all in together. We all kind of pool together,
right,
and do this for fun. So
very cool. Well, it's always good to do stuff with friends.
Yes,
and I saw your collection of your material you take to go down to shows, and that definitely needs more than one person to haul everything.
Oh yeah, it's setting it up, and that's the worst part. It's nice to have people help you with that.
So how far do you guys travel for shows?
Well, I mean,
Augusta's kind of far.
Augusta was a 4.5-hour drive, probably. That's the farthest we've done. We've, mostly around the state of North Carolina, though. We try to stay. But I mean, we're up to breaching out and going farther.
Right.
But it's just, we all have full-time jobs.
That
don't allow us to do it all the time. So we kind of just stay close to home, except for the Augusta, Georgia one. Yeah.
That's kind of a special deal.
Yeah, it's special. So.
All right, so here's for some fun action figure questions. In your collection, which action figure would you like to turn into?
I like
Out of the ones you own, which one would you turn into? You could pick one to be. Which action figure? In your collection.
In my collection. Oh, my goodness. I guess, man, who doesn't want to be Storm Shadow from G.I. Joe, the white ninja?
Right? Yeah, that's the one I remember from G.I. Joe's, the white ninja.
Yeah, he's iconic, and he's just a cool figure. So,
right?
Yeah, Storm Shadow.
Storm Shadow. What do you think is one of the worst action figures, like design-wise and style-wise, that was put out that you were like, oh, why did they make him look like this?
Oh, yeah, I can't think of anything in particular, but there are some out there you'll see every now and then. You go, the head sculpt is terrible. Why did they? It doesn't even look like, if it's supposed to be John Wick, it doesn't even look like Keanu Reeves or anything. But I can't think of anything in particular. Except, I can. There are, if you go to Walmart and you look at back where they have the pops and all that.
Right.
They've had these little figures that are supposed to be like AC/DC.
Yes.
And they are terrible. The face sculpts on those are terrible. So, yeah, there's an example.
I'm sure the guys in AC/DC are like, show us the paycheck and you can make some figures.
Yeah.
We need to look at it. Which action figures do you wish existed in real life?
I mean, who wouldn't want to be G.I. Joe? I mean, who wouldn't want to be?
Right.
if Storm Shadow was a real person and if Snake Eyes was a real person.
Because that's what they're supposed to be, is real people.
Yeah.
They're not superheroes. They're
people.
They're people.
Or man, Transformers. Wouldn't it be awesome if Transformers were real?
Right. I was going to say, well, if you said Batman, you're going to get a big bank account along with all those toys to play, too.
Yeah, that's true.
He's a regular person.
Yeah, that's right. He has no superpowers.
No, he's just, as Ben Affleck said, I'm rich.
Yeah.
It's a superpower. All right. So if you could have one of your action figures as a sidekick, who would be your sidekick?
How about Yoda?
Ooh.
Yeah, or Grogu even.
Mm.
I think I'd rather have Yoda.
Yoda can already bring stuff to you from inside the house. Grogu, you don't share he's still messing with his powers.
And Yoda's so wise.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be cool, to have Jedi powers. That would be very helpful when you're telling our legislature how to teacher paychecks.
Oh, well, in that case, we might want Darth Vader for the chokehold.
Oh, that's right. We would, march him in there to the General Assembly. That's for sure. All right, so what are your collecting goals as you move on the next 10, 15, 20 years? What would you like to do with collecting?
What would I like to do? Well, that's a hard question to answer. I mean, I'd like to not go broke collecting,
right.
But I would still like to keep collecting. And it's getting harder because everything has gone up in price so much just because of the popularity and everything now. My favorite part is finding stuff somewhere where, not a store or so much, but just maybe in a lot. When someone, decides, hey, I've got my attic and I want to get rid of a couple boxes of toys, would you like them? I think my goals would be to probably find more stuff like that that I like, that I can fix up and repair and clean. Because I enjoy restoration of the old stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed you had a big operating table of people you were putting back together. Now, will you buy parts of action figures?
That's part of it. You buy parts. I'll buy figures. I'll buy collections.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and then turn around and cherry pick it and for myself, and then then get rid of the rest. Try to sell it.
Now, how often does somebody come to you and say, "Oh, I found a box of this in my attic"?
Not very often.
Not very often.
Not as much as I would like for it to. I would like to do that. That would be nice if it happened more. But everybody knows about eBay now, and everybody.
Yeah.
There's so much of that on eBay, and then you pay so much more because you're not the only person trying to get it.
Right. There are lots of other people trying to get those toys too. That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, Keith. So every person that comes on the podcast, I'm going to ask them some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
And just spit out. And these aren't necessarily action figure related questions, but just rapid fire. All right. What is the most beautiful thing you think you've ever seen?
My wife, of course.
All right. So, okay, besides your wife, what is the most beautiful thing you've ever seen?
Oh, man, waterfalls.
Waterfalls are a great answer. Yeah. I love waterfalls.
Yeah.
What's your favorite smell?
My favorite smell? Bacon.
Bacon. Yeah. What is your favorite word? What's a word?
A word. Oh, man. I don't have a favorite word. I use them all. I can't say my favorite word on your podcast. Hey, how about that?
Right? Not until we retire. You can say all the favorite words. Name a time that you felt very happy.
A time I felt very happy.
Besides your wedding day.
Yeah, besides my wedding day, yeah. When it snows.
When it snows, yes. We have.
When it snows anytime it snows and we get over 6 inches.
We get a day off. Yes.
That's the times I'm very happy.
A happy moment is when we get the little text or announcement that school is canceled. Yes. That is a happy day. What advice would you give yourself as a kid?
Oh, man.
If you could just drop one little nugget to your younger self?
Oh, man, there's all kinds of stuff, but I think I would definitely tell myself to do my schoolwork more. Study more and maybe pick a different field.
Possibly. I would tell my younger self to practice more.
Practice more. Exactly,
Practice
yeah.
more.
Practice more, yeah. And sacrifice more, so that I would practice more.
Practice more.
Yeah.
All right, Keith. So if somebody wants to buy an action figure from you, where can they do that at?
Find us at any of our conventions or cons. You can also look us up on Facebook. We have a Facebook page, and it's Free Range Collectibles.
Free Range Collectibles.
And it is on Facebook, and you can like that and follow that and contact us. Even if it's something that we don't know if we have it or not, but you can contact us, and we might know where we can find it.
Now, I can tell you from Keith's collection, if he doesn't have it, I don't know if it exists. That's quite a lot. Well, thanks for coming on the first podcast,
Yay.
Mr. Keith Davis, talking about all things action figures and collectibles. Check back on the podcast routinely, as we'll have many other guests, hopefully many other guests coming in the near future.
If not, I'll come back.
All right. I'm sure Keith will be back on again, because we've got more to talk about with Mr. Davis other than action figures, that's for sure. But if I had any questions about toys or action figures at all, he is the man to see. All right, till we see you next time, have a good week.
Adios.